I was 6 years old when the war, Second World War, started. I was 6 in the June, and the war started in September. And that was a kind of phony war. But there was a mass evacuation of children who lived in big cities, and I was born in Manchester. My parents came from Sheffield, and the place I was evacuated to, a little place called Chapel-on-the-Frith, which is midway between Sheffield and Manchester. And I remember standing there in the cattle yard with all the other kids, with my knapsack, RMCK 44/3, indelibly written on my knapsack. I had my gas mask and I assume a change of clothing in my little rucksack, not much, and was allocated to somebody, a family. I don't remember them terribly well because I didn't stay with them very long. I went and stayed on a farm where there was somebody else who was evacuated. And we listened to the radio in the evening, and about, I don't know, 6 o'clock or so, there was a song on the radio sung by a woman which went something like, "Good night, children everywhere, your daddy thinks of you tonight. When you lay your head upon your pillow." And I don't remember it anymore, but it really stuck in my mind. Anyway, now scroll forward at least 60 years. I'm again on the BBC Drama Repertory Company. I've done about 5 stints on it, where you recorded probably 7 plays in a week. And we were doing a programme called History not so long ago. And as actors will, they always greet each other and meet and chat. And the sound engineers often click their button so they can hear what we're all talking about before we actually start working. And we were talking about being evacuated. I was the only one actually in the cast who'd been evacuated. But an actor called Ted Kelsey, who used to play Joe Grundy in The Archers, he was born in Cornwall, and he'd had some Londoners billeted on him when he was a child. At any rate, we rehearsed, and then had a read through, and then rehearsed, and then we went for a tea break. And when we came back from the tea break, somebody had phoned up the music library, and this song was playing, and the woman singing was of course Vera Lynn, and she was singing this song, and it was extraordinary. I could feel this great surge of emotion snaking up my legs, and the next minute I was just racked with sobs. I couldn't stop crying. People were saying, "Turn off the radio, Shirley's upset, she's weeping." And anyway, I think I apologised to the cast, and we got on with the recording, and all was well. Anyway, that was in the 90s. And of course, it's extraordinary during this lockdown. One's got time to think about things. And I was thinking about the war because of VE Day and all that, celebrations of 75 years, which of course I remember terribly well, as though it was yesterday. And I was thinking about this moment, or rather thinking about being evacuated. And I had a kind of sense of peace, a sense of a close down. I mean, it's finished, it's past, it's over. And it was though somebody was laying a hand on my head and reassuring me. And yes, I mean, I'm lucky enough to have a garden, and a very tiny one. And I just went out into the garden and took some deep breaths, and I felt strangely at peace at last. Yeah, strange.
The pandemic's affected people in different ways, and some people have suffered greatly and continue to do so. For those of us who have the privilege and the access, I wanted to say thank you to everybody who has worked so hard to bring technology and bring us together. And despite the difficulties faced, I think there's a new sense of intimacy and connection that I've witnessed through the Zoom Eucharist, through hearing people's prayers out loud, through the evening Compline, and getting a window into people's lives, their book collection, their music collection, sometimes their pajamas. There is this sense of shared living, shared spirituality, connection to people far flung from St. James physically, in Canada, in France, like myself in Holland. And there is a deeper sense of stillness and space to hold on to what's important to us, to our spirituality, to our prayers, to our community, in the widest sense of that word.
Well, for several years I've been training in healing and psychotherapy. What I'm doing at the moment is preparing or working out exactly how I want to practice, and what sort of website I want to create to announce it, to promote it. And so I'm spending a lot of time in contemplation and meditation indoors, and also going for walks in the woods, which are right next door to the flat. So I'm spending quite a bit of time in stillness and in nature. Some of my contemplation, some of my meditation is through playing music, and I play a reed flute called a ney, and the music is from the Sufi, the Mevlevi tradition, the whirling dervishes. It's music that is very meditative, and it's got an ancient history to it, going back to ancient times. So for me it's a connection with meditative, mystical people way back in history. I find it's very still and very grounding.
Hello, I'm Elenor and a regular member of St. James's Church. I've been incredibly grateful to have all the wonderful transmissions we've had throughout this lockdown, and I'm so grateful to all the clergy and members of the team who've looked after us so well. And it's also been lovely to see the other members of the church on the Zooms. I feel very fortunate to have all this technology to do this. For the last 10 weeks, my husband and I have been in Beaminster in West Dorset, where we've had a cottage for the last 45 years. It was to have been our retirement home, but we couldn't bear to leave London with all the things it had to offer when we at last had time to enjoy them. But it's very beautiful down here. This is the church's beautiful 15th century tower. There's no clock face, but the clock chimes every quarter of an hour, and every 3 hours it plays the tune of "O Worship the King" on the bells. When I look at the words carefully, having forgotten many of them, it seems a very appropriate prayer for this very sad and difficult time, and we're reminded of it 4 times a day. The countryside is magnificent, and I've enjoyed going out early every morning, walking in the woods and the lanes. And the spring has been quite miraculous this year in the beautiful weather. I've really loved seeing it unfold day by day, with all the birds' song. Seemingly, they seem to compete with each other to see who can sing the loudest, and the wildflowers have been quite spectacular. So I do feel very fortunate. My working life was that of a GP, and so I still feel really guilty about not doing anything more effective or being in the front line. But being over 80, I would only be a liability. But it's quite sad not to be more helpful. All the neighbours are elderly too, so we do our very best to look after each other. I wish everybody well and hope that we shall all be together again soon.
Hi everyone, my name is Florence. I'm away going to work. I just want to use this opportunity to share my experience during this pandemic. It has been a season of fear and anxiety, but I thank God for His grace to move on. I'm an healthcare assistant. I take care of the elderly at my workplace. During this pandemic, I was always afraid of going to work. Each time I want to go to work, I'll be feeling feverish, like I'm about to fall sick. Fear will be all over me. Even when I come back from work, the same thing, fear will be all over me. And I was at a point I was thinking of stopping, everybody was like, better stop working. But on the other hand, I was thinking, if I stop working just like other people did, who will take care of the elderly? Who will take care of this resident? So I have to put God first. And I thank God for His word, especially Psalm 91. Psalm 91 kept me going. It encouraged me. Before I go to work, I pray Psalm 91. If I come back, I pray Psalm 91. And I say to God, I'm going to look after the elderly, those that cannot help themselves. For their sake, please protect me. And to Him alone be the glory. I am fine and I am healthy. I just had a test last week and everything came out negative. So I give God all the glory. I give Him all the honor. My prayer is that I pray that God should make this coronavirus to disappear, because it's a kind of making everyone tensed. And I pray that God will keep on protecting each one of us until we all meet again. That's my prayer every day. And my advice for everyone is we should all try to keep on keeping safe, stay at home. God bless you all. This is Florence. Bye. Hope to see you all soon. God bless you. Bye. Bye.
This is so and is what's known as a spiked fiddle. As you can see, spike comes through the bottom of the sound box here, and it goes all the way up to the top with the pegs going through it when it gets thicker. And the important thing is that the bow is fixed between the two strings, I think, they ought to be slightly further apart. So, and you play one string with the bow upwards and the other with the bow downwards. About the last time I played this must have been something like 15 to 20 years ago. I remember being given an enormous brightly coloured caftan to wear, and you sit with your legs crossed in front of you, and that can get quite, it can even be painful if you're not used to it after a bit. And it was the SOAS graduation ceremony with Geoffrey Howe right on front of me giving out the certificate. I hope it didn't turn round. Anyway, see me. I've had 2 letters recently saying that something about, I'm supposed to be, whatever it is, lockdown for 4 weeks, is it? No, 12 weeks, is it? I cannot visualise not leaving my room for 12 weeks. I think it would kill me, I think. And also, not seeing a friend for that length of time, the same thing. Some things I've done, like going to the park every day for an hour, and I've been doing that since it started, and I always enjoy sitting on the bench below the St James's Park Cafe, usually just in the shade because it's been so hot. And, I almost feel like imitating the ducks and the geese, trying to be accurate. And, we've had some quite unusual things this year, or unusual to me, like 3 lovely herons. I've not seen them before. The Egyptian geese, they've only been coming for a year or 2. I really need to start again, with a tutor, and I'd like to do that. Actually, it's such a lovely instrument.
I'm staying with my mother during lockdown, so other people don't have to come in and out of her house. I thought I'd be here till about the 2nd week of June. Now, I don't know, definitely until the end of June. But after that, who knows? And how has it been? Well, I've not been at work, but I've been busy, very busy, with my housekeeping for my mother and some care. She has Wi-Fi, thanks to my technical brother, so I've been able to keep in touch with church, with dance, with other things, social media, and the dance in particular, also church. It's been very interesting to see how activities have moved to Zoom and to Facebook Live, Facebook videos, YouTube videos, and I've been learning how to do some of that myself, although I still haven't I'm not sure enough, particularly with Zoom, I'm not sure enough about how to get the music satisfactorily for teaching dance, but I'm still sort of working on it. I'm doing a video like this as well. So, all the best to everyone. Goodbye.
Hi, I want to say something about the way that I've experienced this time of lockdown. Because in so many ways, I'm with people who say that they've experienced a time to slow down, a time to pay attention, to learn to listen, for example, to the sounds of birdsong in the morning in the city. And that's been wonderful. It's been a time to simplify, to learn to make do with less, to waste less, and to grow in my practical ways of touching people and caring and reaching out with love across the divide and in prayer at this time. But in so many ways, I'm also with people for whom it's been a really disruptive period in work and family life and personally and in other ways. So here's an example. I started with really high aims to sit down and read a number of books during this time, including Tom Holland's Dominion, Picked up a couple of passages, but didn't get very far at all. Then I picked up a heavy-duty book of theology, Andrew Davidson's Participation in God. 3 pages, maybe. And I understand there's a paperback version coming out soon. Maybe that'll be easier to get through. Oh yes, an old classic, Diary of a Country Priest. I picked up a used French copy. I thought I'll read it in French. Haven't done that, or haven't got that very far at all. Here's Kirsten Lavren's daughter, a story of a 14th century young woman in Norway and her progeny to follow for 3 generations. Great book, at least the first 10 pages of the book. And finally, The Magic Mountain. I suppose I made a bit more headway with this book, and I've got maybe a third of the way through. Certainly haven't finished it, and but it just goes to show that it really has been a time of disruption, and yet none of these attempts have gone to waste. None of it is, I believe, in vain, and that takes me to Samuel Beckett. And what he told us, what he taught us about failure and learning from our mistakes and learning from the times when we're not able to accomplish what we want, as this has been for me, when he said, try again, fail better. And I wonder if there's something of the message of Pentecost, of the giving of the Spirit, of the coming of the Spirit to us in tongues of fire. Try again, fail better.
Hi, my name is Evelyn. This lockdown has taught me to be more closer to God, to put all my trust and believe in Him, because He's the most powerful and loving Father. Follow the government guidelines and those from the medical personnel in order to help save lives. Check on our family and friends on a daily basis, especially those who are vulnerable. Invest in different ventures which can bring in multiple sources of income than depending on just one source of income. Focus on the future. What can we do now to help us survive in the next 6-12 months if we don't go back to work today? Thank you.
A poem, Don't Cut Your Own Hair, by me, Ben Bloom. Don't cut your own hair, even when it begins to look like something extraterrestrial. Don't decide that now is the time that you'll finally learn how to keep plants alive. It isn't. Don't mistake the quiet for the world taking a break. Healing takes a lot of work. Don't stay alert. You deserve some peace. Don't walk on eggshells around life. Don't constipate your creativity with unhelpful expectations. Don't beat yourself up if you don't read the Bible much. Don't even think about starting a bloody diet. However, Toblerone is not a breakfast food. Don't lose sight of the middle ground. Don't lose hope, darling. Don't hold yourself accountable for the lies told to you by an enemy who only lives for your undoing. Don't search for what's not there. Don't be a Pollyanna, but don't cling to what's absent. Don't stop giving thanks. Don't miss where God has kissed the moments of your day and made them sacred. Don't worry about the unknown unknowns or the known unknowns or the unknown knowns. Don't forget that you are known by your name, that you are loved, and that you are found.
I have two children, one who is dead and one who is very much alive. Rowan is buried at Brompton Cemetery. Like many places, I didn't realize how important it was to me until we were no longer able to travel there. Until then, we are caring for the tree that we had sponsored through our local council in memory of Rowan. Brecken is now 14 months old. During lockdown, he has mastered the art of walking, and we think he is very, very close to saying his first real words. Every few days, we visit the Rowan tree. Brecken likes to run around it, he helps us water it, and he likes to feel the leaves. Someday soon, I hope lockdown will end and it will be safe for us to travel to the cemetery again to visit Rowan's grave. In the meantime, we are caring for this tree.
Hello from North London. As you can see, I'm painting. The theory being that if I'm doing something else, I'll forget about the camera, but I'm not sure that that's working. Anyway, painting. I'm finishing an exercise for my art class, which has gone online. It's good to be back at the art class, even if it is online. Somehow painting on your own isn't quite the same as having the input of other people and the challenge of the class. Painting and Pentecost. I started the art class about 9 years ago when I was going through a tough time at work. Didn't have much work-life balance and probably wasn't very happy. I also had God in a box marked evening prayers and emergencies. And going to the art class meant doing something that I'd been meaning to do for years and had been procrastinating about, meeting new people, and I think gradually, bit by bit, looking at the world differently. Really looking at the world about me, looking at what was going on, at people, at creation, at I don't know, a whole lot of things, and inevitably God didn't stay in that box for very long. My Lent thing this year was to work on prayer, and that really is still work in progress. But one thing I found during lockdown is that it's really natural to walk and talk to God, to pray, and pray while we're looking together at the world around us, and it's just been a really beautiful experience. Okay.
Hi, this is Wilson Wong, and I'm sharing my experience of lockdown. As you know, as many of you know, I travel a lot, so working out of hotel rooms alone is quite normal. And working at home now seemed like an extension of that. But of course, before lockdown, I prepared. I got my gloves, my mask, my thermometer, my essential food, so everything was kind of packed down. I was also concerned about the security of my job, so initially it seemed like timelines just didn't seem relevant anymore. But as the organization organized itself, I became busier and busier. One of the things that I do is my daily walk, and you can see that I spend about an hour every day just to recharge, just to clear my head. And this is an important part of my daily structure. I also write to friends now because it gives me a different pace, because work tends to take over every moment of my life. I want to thank all the people that I'm in touch with in church. Thank you very much for your prayers, especially when I lost my friend to COVID and had to make the hard decision whether to go to his funeral. I've never once felt alone, and I thank God for that. So God bless and happy Pentecost.
When we all met for the last time at St James's, when we sowed the corn in the courtyard, and I remember being very sad, quite heartbroken really, thinking of all that might happen before we all met again. But I have to say, truth to tell, once the first shock wore off, which took about a week, I found this period to be really rather enjoyable. I feel guilty about that because I'm aware that it absolutely has not been enjoyable for lots of people. But for me, it's been a chance to take stock, to let go of the great cult of busyness and the full diary, and to concentrate on what I love most, which is my own work. I haven't got on very well with virtual church, but I have much enjoyed holding on to the silence at 8:30 every morning. And what I think I'm going to take away from this time is a chance to restock, to rethink. And I know quite a few other people who've had similar experiences, whether it's children who are let go of the tyranny of the school day, or people who are just spending more time with their kids, or people who, for whatever reason, are stepping back, taking a breather, thinking through what's important. And for that, I am grateful and I value this time.
Hello everyone, my name is Betty Nachigude, a lesbian from Uganda. I would like to say something about the lockdown. I used to be with people, but then when lockdown came in, it made me to feel bad. I've been lonely indoors throughout. And then I would like to thank everyone who has been there for me, making calls, checking on me. I would like to thank Jo Goers. She really helped me with the vouchers, and they have really helped me. I thought I was gonna starve. I really got worried when they say shops are not gonna be opened. But things were very good for me. I've had all the food, I've got everything I needed to be with.
When I reflect on this time, I think one of the things that I'll really remember is a memory to do with my family. And for those of you that know me well will know that I'm really close with my family, and particularly my cousins and their kids. And before now, I had underestimated the amount that spending time with them contributed to positive mental health for me, and was kind of one of the parts of my toolkit, I suppose. So being away from them has been really hard. And a couple of weeks ago, my family welcomed the newest member, my cousin's son Noah. And usually when a new member of the family is born, we gather all together, we take lots of photos and take turns to cuddle them and check in on the parents and so on. And so not being able to do that this time has been incredibly difficult. And I think particularly for his nanny, who's not been able to kind of cuddle him and meet him properly like she normally would. But instead, the way that we marked it was by doing a Zoom celebration. And that meant that we were able to have all 4 generations of my family on the call, and include members of the family from India that we wouldn't normally be able to have so close to us in that time. And so we had my granddad's brother, who's kind of one of the oldest members of the family, and we had the newest member of the family, Noah, all there together. And while it's still incredibly hard that we've not been able to properly meet him yet or have those cuddles, I think that's a really special time and way that we got to connect that we wouldn't have normally.
Hi, I'm John. I'm the new Associate Rector at St James's. I'm just setting up for home communion for the Zoom Eucharist this evening, so I've not celebrated Eucharist in my home before, so I've had to sort out some new kit. I've got a little chalice and pattern that will be getting its first outing this evening. This is pewter, not silver, the poor man's option. But I've spent a lot of time in this particular spot. So I started a 6-month level 1 yoga training course at the beginning of this year, and we'd done the first 4-day module, and then just before the second one happened, the lockdown wasn't quite announced, but it was on the brink of it, and we moved it all online and we did it all on Zoom, which I fought against quite vigorously because I just thought it wouldn't work. And actually, although Zoom can be sometimes a bit glitchy, is mostly pretty good and has actually worked amazingly well. So there are 31 of us. I am the only man and a priest, so that's quite hilarious. But they've let me be an honorary woman, which I'm quite enjoying. If anyone is still concerned about whether you can do yoga from a Christian position, I think this yoga mat should answer any concerns that you have. I think if you can get yoga mats like this, clearly Christians are embracing yoga. I'll be sitting here for the Eucharist this evening because this is the only space that I've really got. I've got room to do this in, and if I showed you the rest of the room, you would see all my belongings are crammed against the walls in order to make this space. So happy feast day, everybody.
So, lockdown. For me, I've been very blessed. It's been a time of peacefulness and contemplation. Every day I read 3 or 4 pages from Pray Every Day, which you can get on Amazon, and it's free or only 99 pence. It's an ebook, and it's a book of prayers compiled by people from our congregation, and I have found great joy from that. And the other thing that I've done 10 days of happiness.org, which gives you an exercise every day of enhancing your mood and making life better, really. So that's been really lovely. I've spent long periods of peacefulness and quietness. I've tried to do something creative every day, i.e. cooking or writing. I don't write anything very, very amazing. I write letters and I write articles sometimes. I write to Boris to give him guidance on how to run the country. And I write to my friends. I also try and tidy up a bit. Do a bit of Marie Kondo, but yes, it's been very peaceful. I've felt very quiet and calm, and not all the time, mind you, but most of the time it's been very peaceful and really, actually, extraordinarily quite enjoyable.
Hello SJP, my name is Elijah. I am the pastoral assistant here at the church, and I am hopefully going to be revealing a little bit about what I've been doing in this lockdown madness that we're in. You find me in my lovely little room, my little quarantine room. I call it my cell block tango, and it is a lovely 2 foot by 1 foot space in central London, which is very nice. But for the most part, I'm here. This is where I do my work. I'm still working for the church remotely, so that's kind of my day-to-day stuff, as well as trying to not lose my mind. Exciting. I found it incredibly difficult. We were coming through Lenten season right into Easter when all this kind of broke down, and for me, I've said to many people kind of jokingly, but clearly not also, I feel like we kind of went through Lent, we were coming into Easter, Christ died, and he just stayed dead. And that's kind of where I felt emotionally and spiritually, just kind of dropped off of the planet. And I think there's a reason for that, obviously. It's, the situation that we're in, the place we find ourselves, and the lack of personal interaction. It just feels very somber and melancholy. And so I think that's just translated into both my prayer life, into my spiritual life, and everything. It's just kind of taken a more sad, somber approach to it. And my hope is that as we come out of COVID and as the lockdown kind of eases up eventually, that I will feel Christ risen again. It's so who knows? I'm on an uncharted discovery journey when it comes to my spirituality at the moment, and we shall see where it leads with all great anticipation. We'll talk again in a week's time. I'll give you an update later on. But beyond that, I'm trying to keep busy. Looking out the way, I did actually catch myself looking out of the window and staring for 30 minutes. It was good. I felt like kind of a kept woman in the Tudor period. It was, just forlorningly looking outside at things passing by, leaves changing, all that kind of stuff. Who knows? Beyond that, I think like everyone else, we're all suddenly, picking up things that we thought we'd lost when we were 5, like those flute lessons and trying to learn how to bake again and all those kind of delightful things, which I think is great. It's good. It's stimulation. My thing is I've always worked in the arts and been in the arts, so I continue to pattern cut and I continue to make clothing and I continue to draw and paint and all those kind of things. So that does take up quite a bit of time. And then between that and still working. So it's, my days shockingly tend to fly by, I thought doing all this would be kind of lugging back, but my days do tend to just rocket off, so who knows. And also long walks. Love a good long walk. Live right by the river, which is fantastic. So it's like straight out my door, social isolation, right to the river, go for a 3-mile long walk. Fantastic. And try not to pet all the dogs. That is the struggle. So beyond that, it's very good. And then the generic kind of literally eating breakfast, thinking about what I'm going to eat for lunch, and then thinking about what I'm going to eat for dinner whilst eating lunch. So it's kind of, it's a knock-on kind of effect type of thing. Yeah. And then as I said as well with, one of the side effects of being gay is that if you're in quarantine and you have either clipper shears or hair dye, something's going to happen. And it did. So it's, can't do anything about it. One of the day. But I think blonde looks good. It's fun. But missing everyone so much, I think that's one of the, if I had to put it down to one of the hardest things during quarantine, it would certainly be missing everyone, both friends and at church and people and the community that we have at St. James's. That is very difficult, and it's and we're not designed to do that. I don't think we're designed to live like that. We're designed to live in community. So take it one day at a time, one step at a time, and we'll get through it. Don't worry. Lots of love. Take care. Stay sane. Drink lots of water. Hydrate. Hydration is key. There we go. Love you all.
Hi everyone, my name is Bukky and I'm grateful to share my lockdown experience with you all. Since the pandemic started, I've been worried and I stopped thinking about everything I was fighting for in life, and I started thinking about myself, family and friends' safety, especially the vulnerable ones like Catherine in St. James and others. And the lockdown has taught me the supremacy of God, that God owns every second, minute and hour. And it has also taught me that God cannot lie, that the only thing God cannot do is lie, that he doesn't even have the capacity to lie, that what he says he will do, he will do. My story is an example of sudden miracle where I thought everything is finished, I lost hope. But God proved himself in the middle of the crisis and showed up and turned my situation around. I really miss St. James and family, and I pray to see everyone soon. And I want to use this opportunity to thank everyone in St. James for the love, support and care, for allowing God to use you in my life to bless me. Because if you didn't allow God or obey God to bless me, I won't have this testimony of freedom. Thank you all, and I hope to see you all soon. Thank you.
This period of lockdown and self-isolation has brought several obvious disadvantages, not being able to meet friends, to go out to watch a play or a film, not being able to travel. There's been some bad news and there's been some tragic news. At the same time, there have been opportunities to find more time for friends, to use technology, apps I never used before and never heard of before, that have allowed to be in touch more often and catch up with friends I not really talked to for several months. And there have been opportunities to deepen the relationship even with some work colleagues, and some work relationships have mutated into friendships in the meanwhile. From a spiritual point of view, while maintaining my routine of daily prayer, there have been opportunities to share some moments of prayer with other members of the community beyond the general services that are screened through the YouTube or Zoom platforms. We've been able to organize a compline that brings together quite a few of us every single night, and not only allows us to pray together and to reflect together about the day that is ending, but also to get to know each other. We are a big congregation, and sometimes it's difficult to stick names to faces, and now we are meeting every night, and true friendships are starting to bloom. And soon other experiences will stem out from this, like reading the gospel together. So I would say, as a summary of this period, not everything is good, but not everything is bad either.
When the lockdown first started and I realised that I was going to need to isolate because there's someone in my house who's vulnerable, I couldn't kind of believe that I was actually allowed to stay at home. In fact, I was being encouraged to stay at home. And one of the things for me, that I've managed to avoid doing for many years is to really just stay with myself. And I've been grieving and getting good at grieving. Whew, yeah, not feeling great right now, to be honest. But yesterday I have a little lockdown story, and I was on my way back from visiting someone in a park, and I was driving my car and I noticed one of those sort of little chunks of pain begin to come up inside, like kind of feel like it's like broken glass, or just something very uneven and a little sharp. I thought, okay, this is something coming up, so I'll just breathe with it. And I pulled into Sainsbury's car park because I needed to do some shopping. And when I got out the car, there was this guy, and he looked really thin and really desperate, and he was really hungry, and he felt really vulnerable. And I just saw another child in pain. I had a really warm feeling of love for him. And he asked me for money. I didn't have any money. And he said, how about some food? And I went in and I got him some food, and I got some extra little treats for him. And when I came out, as I walked towards him, he didn't look at me because I think he thought I might just walk past. And he didn't have any other food, so I guess quite a lot of people had walked past. And as I got closer, I thought, I want to tell him that he's beautiful and he shouldn't let anybody tell him otherwise. And I gave him the bag of food, and he opened it up really quickly, and then he saw the little treats in there, and he just put his hand on his heart, and I just said, it's okay. Not much emotion in my voice. And then as I walked to the car, I kind of berated myself, and I said, why can't I just say, what's true? That you're beautiful. And I think really the truth is because I can't bear being that vulnerable. And so I really hope that through grieving and not running away from any parts of myself, that I might get to the point where I can bear being that vulnerable and I can talk directly to people with love.
This is for St James's, for Pentecost, and I think the big features for me have been the garden, and music. Those are the two things. So I thought I'd just come out into the garden and play something. And this is always such a lovely little sunny spot under this tree. It's where I often escape to. So here we go.
Hiya, friends. My lock-up little video, 2 minutes. Well, I've missed quite a few things, really, that I haven't been able to go. I haven't been able to do my art on a Tuesday afternoon. I haven't been able to do my yoga in the Wednesday morning. I haven't been able to go to my old boys meet-up group on a Friday morning. For a chat and coffee and cake, yeah, I've been doing that since 2014, yeah, quite a long time. And of course I've missed not being able to go to church on Sunday, yeah, that's become a regular thing now for me, yeah. It all started when the Heavenly Father sent me there to buy some books, the Conversation with God books. I don't know whether you know them, but I actually bought 1 and 3 in St James's Church itself. So that was probably 2016, yeah, when I thought I was going mad, and they helped me realise I wasn't going mad anyway. I do miss going to church, and the reason I went there is the Heavenly Father sent me there for my first service in what was it, July 2017. So, and I've been going most Sundays now ever since, and I'm watching the clock on my phone because I don't want to go over the 2 minutes, so I'm sort of speaking fast. So there we go, that's my little story, and I'm looking forward to getting back to church, probably going to be July, I'm thinking, yeah. So I wish you all well, and let's hope we enjoy going around the shops we used to go round and getting back to normal. Bye-bye.
I think I like the transportation that
with the paintings that I loved as a child, you could journey into different realms, and it would have a vividness that perhaps films have nowadays. But pictures equally can have, and also you stay with a picture for a long period of time.
My lockdown story, well, you can see I'm speaking from the courtyard of the church because I live here. Probably this has been the most striking aspect of this whole time for me, because the church is the people, and the church building and the courtyard and our lovely garden, they don't really make sense without the people. So I found myself going into the garden often. I say my prayers there each day, and it's become a place of solace and rest for me in a way that it probably hasn't been so much before. So I've learned a huge amount over this time. Like many individual people, I personally have found this experience really hard. So to be able to have a green space to go into has been an enormous gift. And to get to know some of the people who are sleeping rough around this church building. Central London, of course, has been completely deserted apart from them, despite the heroic efforts of many people to try to house people in hotels. There are a significant number of people for whom that's not happened. So to try to help as best I can in this particular area, in our parish, that's also been a feature of this time. The garden probably stays with me though as an amazing green gift, a place to pray and a place to take all the suffering which has been immense of this time